If I had known that buying my first home would turn into a battle of wits, legal threats, and literal electrical theft, I probably still would have done it, but I would have brought popcorn. And maybe a taser. I'm Alex, 28, moved into my little slice of suburbia paradise 6 months ago. It's a modest single-story home in a quiet HOA-governed neighborhood, because of course it had to be HOA. It was the only place in my price range that didn't smell like mildew or come with a free raccoon colony. At first, it was idyllic. I could finally drink coffee on my porch without hearing my upstairs neighbor scream at Call of Duty. My backyard was big enough for a hammock. Life was good. Then I met her. Enter Karen. Mid-50s, surgically precise bob haircut, the kind of woman who's never seen a rule she didn't want to weaponize. She was the acting president of the HOA, self-appointed, of course, and wielded her clipboard like a medieval scepter. Our first interaction was, let's call it a soft warning. She knocked on my door exactly 12 hours after I moved in. Karen, just wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood. And also remind you that trash cans must be stored out of sight by 7:01 a.m. sharp. It's in the bylaws. I smiled, nodded, and went back to figuring out where I'd pack my coffee mugs. Rookie mistake. I assumed that would be the end of it. Spoiler, it wasn't. In the following weeks, I received 3 official HOA warnings. One for my non-neutral toned welcome mat. It was navy blue. One for excessive wind chimes. I had 2. And one for unauthorized lawn ornamentation, a flamingo I got as a joke gift that I thought was charmingly tacky. It was clear Karen had declared passive-aggressive war, but I wasn't about to be bullied by a woman who coordinated her outfits with her poodle. Now, here's where the plot thickens, electrically. About a month ago, I started noticing something off. My electric bill shot up. Not a little. A lot. Like, do I secretly have a Bitcoin mine in my attic? Kind of spike. I live alone. I work from home, sure, but I'm not running an amusement park here. Naturally, I called the electric company. They ran a check. No error on their end. That's when I started looking closer, checking plugs, flipping breakers, even using a smart meter to monitor my usage. And guess what? Turns out someone was siphoning electricity from me. Someone had literally spliced into my outdoor power outlet. I found a thin, half-buried orange extension cord trailing neatly from my garage to, drumroll please, Karen's side yard. At first, I thought, no way she's that bold. Oh, but Karen was bold and stupid. A dangerous combo. I decided to test my theory before confronting her. I unplugged the cord. 5 minutes later, Karen was banging on my front door like I'd stolen her antique teacup collection. Karen, excuse me. My home surveillance system just went offline. You wouldn't happen to know anything about a power outage, would you? Ah, yes, because the first person you suspect in a power outage is your neighbor who lives 30 feet away. Me. Weird. You know, I just noticed a random cord plugged into my outlet. That's probably not safe. Might want to check with the HOA about that. She blinked. Hard. For half a second, I saw something crack behind her Botox-laminated exterior. But she recovered quickly. Karen, that outlet is on community property. It's not technically yours. Shared resources. I stared at her. I'm not an electrician, but I'm also not completely brain dead. The outlet was literally attached to my house, right below my bedroom window. It didn't even face the sidewalk. She was stealing my electricity. Boldly. Openly. And now she was trying to gaslight me into thinking it was communal property? Ma'am. This isn't ancient Rome, and you're not Caesar annexing Gaul. That's when I decided, game on. I spent that night staring at my ceiling, trying to figure out how to legally roast someone for electrical theft without setting my own house on fire, figuratively or otherwise. I'd never dealt with something like this before. Annoying neighbors? Sure. But a neighbor stealing electricity and calling it shared resources? Next level HOA nonsense. I decided to do what every responsible adult does when they suspect their neighbor is committing a crime. I called my tech-savvy cousin James. James is the kind of guy who wears socks with robots on them and once built his own drone because Amazon's was too limited. He practically salivated when I told him the situation. James, oh, this is amazing. I've got a Wi-Fi plug with power monitoring. We can measure usage down to the milliwatt. Also, can I install a camera? Please. Within 24 hours, I had what basically amounted to an anti-Karen surveillance network. We set up a smart outlet, rigged a hidden cam aimed at the external plug, and started tracking power usage. The next day, the results came in. Karen was pulling nearly 8 kilowatt-hour daily. To put that in perspective, that's enough to power a small fridge, lights, some electronics, maybe even a washer. I couldn't make this up if I tried. Karen was essentially treating my house like her own personal charging station. But the cherry on top? When I examined the video footage, I saw her, in broad daylight, marching over with her little dog, lifting up one of my potted plants, and plugging the cord back in like she was adjusting her Christmas lights. No attempt to hide it. No shame. Just pure, HOA-fueled entitlement. I mean, was I hallucinating? Had I slipped into an alternate universe where people genuinely believed if I want it, it's mine? Now here's where things got fun. I decided to take the high road, but with some altitude. I documented everything. Photos of the extension cord. Video of Karen connecting and disconnecting it. The power usage logs. I even walked over and asked a few neighbors if they'd noticed anything weird lately, just to see if anyone else had been dealing with similar power spikes. That's when I found my first ally. Mr. Dalton, retired Navy vet, lived across the street and had the patience of a Buddhist monk until now. Mr. Dalton, you too? I thought I was losing my mind. My garage freezer keeps shutting off randomly. I checked the wiring 3 times. I showed him my findings. His eyes narrowed. Mr. Dalton, you know, I did see her fiddling with my breaker box last month. Now we had a pattern. Karen wasn't just freeloading from me. She'd apparently decided the entire block was her private grid. I looped in 2 more neighbors, Lisa and Jeremy. Same story. Mysterious power issues, unexplained usage. Lisa had to replace her router twice because of outages she couldn't explain. That's when I realized. Karen had upgraded from nuisance to parasite. So we formed a little coalition. The Anti-Karen Task Force, if you will. And we agreed on 2 things. Firstly, we were going to cut her off. Secondly, we were going to do it legally. Which meant, yep, time for a call to the police. Now, calling the police about stolen electricity felt weird. I half expected them to laugh. But the officer who came out, Officer Ramirez, did not laugh. He was annoyed. Not at me, but at the situation. Ramirez, you'd be surprised how often this happens. Usually it's with landlords stealing from tenants. But this, he gestured toward Karen's house. This is new. We showed him the evidence. The footage, the logs, the neighbors' statements. Ramirez, all right. I'm filing a report. You're well within your rights to remove access to your outlet. And if she tampers with it again after this notice, it becomes criminal theft. Boom. I was practically vibrating with satisfaction when he handed me a copy of the notice he'd be serving her. I even offered to laminate it. Ramirez knocked on her door. I watched from the street, sipping iced coffee like I was at a live theater performance. Karen opened the door, saw him, and the transformation was immediate. She went from smug empress to innocent woodland creature in 0.5 seconds flat. Lots of shocked expressions. Hand gestures. Finger pointing toward my house. At one point I swear she shouted, "It's not even a real outlet," which made no sense unless her defense was now fictional electricity. She didn't take it well. But the cord disappeared. For 3 days. Because, of course, she wasn't done. 3 days. That's how long Karen managed to hold herself back. 72 hours of what I assume was a furious internal debate between self-control and narcissistic delusion. Spoiler, narcissism won in a landslide. On day 4, I came home from a grocery run to find the cord back. But this time, she'd upgraded her theft setup. She ran it under a decorative wooden garden fence panel like she was setting up a damn spy operation. And she'd swapped out the orange cord for a green one. Because, you know, camouflage. Subtlety level. Toddler playing hide-and-seek behind sheer curtains. Now, I'm not proud of this next part, but I was done playing nice. Instead of unplugging the cord, I turned off the breaker connected to that outlet, then waited. 5 minutes. 10. At around the 12-minute mark, my doorbell rang. And who could it be but the Duchess of Delusion herself, clipboard in hand and rage behind her eyes. "Karen, you're Your outlet isn't working again. I think there's a malfunction. Me? Oh yeah, I shut it off. That outlet's on a private circuit. And considering someone's been illegally using it, I figured it was safer this way. Karen's nostrils flared. I half expected steam to start coming out of her ears. Karen, I told you, it's a shared amenity. You're preventing me from maintaining my property. Me? With my electricity? Karen, the HOA guidelines state that all outdoor utilities must be made available to the community. Let me pause here to clarify that no, they absolutely do not. But Karen had a magical ability to invent bylaws the way toddlers invent rules to Candyland. I could have handed her the actual HOA handbook and she'd claim it was outdated or mistranslated from the original Latin. I calmly explained, again, that the outlet was installed by the builder specifically for that unit. I even showed her the building plans. She refused to look. Karen, you'll be hearing from the HOA board. Which is hilarious because she is the HOA board. It's literally her and two other peoples who mostly joined for the free cookies at meetings. That night, I sent Officer Ramirez an email with the new footage. He called me the next morning. Ramirez, all right. That's violation number 2. I'm submitting this for formal charges. She's now facing misdemeanor theft. I could have cried tears of joy. Instead, I baked cookies. Chocolate chip justice. But of course, Karen didn't back down. No. That would have required introspection. She escalated. 2 days after the misdemeanor charge was filed, a notice showed up taped to my door. Not mailed. Not hand-delivered. Taped. In Comic Sans. It read, Notice of HOA Sanction. The property is in violation of Section 4B.7, non-compliance with cooperative resource sharing. A $250 fine is being issued for non-compliance. Failure to resolve this may result in additional HOA actions. I swear, if I hadn't been so angry, I might have framed it. Let's be clear, Section 4B.7 does not exist. I checked. Twice. I even had Lisa, one of the anti-Karen task force, double-check the bylaws. She confirmed it. Karen had fabricated an entire fake clause to try and fine me for protecting my own electrical outlet. It was peak HOA lunacy. Weaponized pettiness. So I did what any self-respecting homeowner does when falsely fined by a clipboard tyrant. I lawyered up. I hired a local attorney named Mia Tran. Sharp, efficient, and blessed with a low tolerance for nonsense. She read the notice, chuckled, and said, "Oh, this'll be fun." Mia filed a cease and desist against Karen personally, not just the HOA, citing defamation, harassment, and abuse of power. She also requested a formal audit of the HOA's recent fines and operations. Because, as it turned out, I wasn't the only one who'd been getting mystery penalties. Karen had been running the HOA like it was her personal fiefdom. Unauthorized fines, threats, manipulated votes. She'd fined Mr. Dalton $50 for unauthorized fencing, his grandson's bike rack. Lisa got dinged for decorative aggression, a pink door wreath. Mia compiled a formal complaint to the city's Department of Housing and Community Development. Suddenly, this wasn't just about me. It was about all of us. And for Karen, the power trip was about to hit a circuit breaker. You ever see someone try to fake confidence while the ground crumbles under their feet? That was Karen for the next 2 weeks. Even as formal notices from the city began arriving, even as neighbors started forwarding her HOA emails to our attorney with little subject lines like, "Guess what she's up to now?" Smiley face. Karen just kept doubling down. I think she genuinely believed if she clutched her clipboard tight enough, reality would bend to her will. Spoiler, it didn't. The cease and desist shut her up publicly, for a while, but the damage was already done. More neighbors were talking, sharing fines, comparing notes. One couple found out they'd been paying a monthly community security fee for cameras that didn't exist. Another realized they'd been threatened with foreclosure over lawn height. Lawn height. It was like peeling wallpaper in an abandoned house, just layers and layers of fraud and passive aggression. Meanwhile, Officer Ramirez had officially filed the misdemeanor theft charge with the county. Karen was being summoned to court. You'd think that would be the climax, right? Oh, my sweet summer child. About a week before the court date, I got a call from Lisa at 7:30 in the morning. I hadn't even had coffee yet. "Lisa, You need to come outside. Now. Still in my slippers, I walked out and almost dropped my mug. Karen's house was swarming with utility workers and 2 uniformed officers. Apparently, her electricity had been shut off. The real kind. The kind that involves cutting the line at the box because of unauthorized rerouting. Here's what happened. Karen, in a move so mind-blowingly stupid I had to ask the officer to repeat it, had not only been siphoning power from neighbors, she tampered with the main utility box for her own home. Tampered. As in, hot-wired it. To bypass her own meter. Let that sink in. She had so fully committed to not paying for electricity that, after being caught stealing mine, she decided the best next move was to hack into the public utility line like some suburban Bond villain. Naturally, the power company noticed irregularities. Because, shocker, it's hard to siphon thousands of kilowatt hours without triggering a red flag. They reported it. A warrant was issued. And now, Karen was standing in her robe, arguing with a man in a hard hat, while 2 cops looked like they were mentally calculating how long before they had to cuff her. I stood across the street with Lisa, Jeremy, and Mr. Dalton. We said nothing. We just watched. It was glorious. Karen's voice was unmistakable, even from 30 feet away. Karen, this is a mistake. I pay my dues. This is harassment. I know my rights. Spoiler, she did not know her rights. Turns out, she was facing 2 charges now. Theft of services, a felony, since it involved tampering with infrastructure, and criminal trespass, stemming from her little power cord adventures on my property. That night, Lisa brought champagne. Mr. Dalton made ribs. I put on music in the backyard. It wasn't even a party. We just existed, without threats taped to our doors or fines for ornamental rocks. The next HOA meeting was scheduled for that Saturday. Karen, somehow, still showed up. Sans clipboard, but with the same martyrdom complex strapped to her like a weighted vest. She opened with, "I'd like to address the unfair treatment I've been receiving." She didn't finish the sentence. Because that's when Mia, my lawyer, walked in. We had brought her as a guest speaker. And when I tell you she destroyed, I mean it was the kind of calm, precise legal annihilation that made me want to buy her a fruit basket. Mia laid it all out. The theft, the fake fines, the misuse of HOA authority. She handed out binders. Binders. Karen's mouth moved, but no sound came out. Maybe she was buffering. Then came the vote. Because per the HOA bylaws, the real ones, members can vote to remove board members for misconduct. Final tally, 18-0. Karen was officially out. She left the room red-faced, muttering something about lawyer conspiracies and witch hunts. She hadn't even reached the parking lot when Jeremy leaned over and whispered, "Do you think she knows witches don't need electricity?" I nearly spit out my soda. If you'd driven through our neighborhood a month later, you wouldn't have noticed anything was wrong. Lawns were freshly mowed. Kids were playing. Mailboxes weren't being cited for non-regulation font. Peace had returned. But one house stood out. Karen's. Lights off. Curtains drawn. A big, red "for sale by owner" sign crookedly stuck in her front lawn, because of course she couldn't just use a standard listing. Karen needed her last act to be dramatic. The city hit her with fines. Not HOA pretend fines. Real ones. Thousands in back pay for tampered electrical infrastructure, plus legal fees. I heard from Officer Ramirez, now basically an honorary member of our neighborhood. She was offered a plea deal to avoid jail time. Probation, community service, mandatory repayment to the utility company, and psychological evaluation. Karen took it, and then disappeared faster than a free buffet at a lawyer's convention. I won't lie, I celebrated. Quietly, pettily. I bought the most obnoxious, non-HOA approved welcome mat I could find. It says, "Private electricity zone, touch it and die." Mia sent me a laughing emoji and told me I should frame the cease and desist and hang it above it. I might. With Karen gone, the HOA was overhauled. We formed a real board, democratically elected this time, and made actual bylaws that didn't sound like they were drafted by a control freak with a superiority complex. Mr. Dalton is treasurer now. Lisa handles communications. I manage community maintenance. Yes, I help run the HOA now. Ironic? Sure. But after what we went through, it's like putting the raccoon in charge of the trash bins. At least I know what to watch for. Oh, and the best part? We installed security cameras at every shared access point, made a neighborhood chat group for real-time updates, and set up a community barbecue once a month. At the first one, someone asked where Karen was. Jeremy, never one to waste a punchline, gestured to her old house and said, "Probably at home, charging up her broomstick at someone else's outlet." Cue snorts, laughter, and someone choking on a hot dog. But me? I just smiled, leaned back in my chair, and looked at the extension cord hanging in my garage. I kept it. Framed it, actually. Labeled it. Exhibit A, the cord that broke the Karen. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if she'll try something like this again in some other poor neighborhood. Maybe she's already out there, fiddling with someone's generator, claiming it's communal backup power. But if she ever circles back here, she'll find a community that doesn't just keep the lights on. We keep receipts, cameras, and a lawyer on speed dial. So, to any future Karens lurking out there, consider this your warning. Don't touch my damn outlet. Thank you for being with us. Please share in the comments where you are watching from and whether you liked everything, and see you next time.